2023 regular meeting of the Holland City Council. I'm Mayor Nathan Box. I'm calling the meeting to order. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd.
Present.
Vreeman.
Present.
Peters. Corbin. Coronado.
Here.
Arnshorst.
Here.
Hoekstra.
Here.
Raymond.
Here.
Mayor Box.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. We're going to begin this evening's meeting as we have for many years, first with an opening prayer this evening led by City Manager Keith Van Beek, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would invite you to join us.
Thank you, and please join me if you're so inclined. Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this day and this week. We thank you as public servants for the opportunity to serve this community in many different ways. We ask for safety for those that serve in many different capacity, police officers, firefighters, inspectors. A lot of talk recently about those in the Board of Public Works that keep our electricity going. Just keep them all safe. We also ask that you grant wisdom to the mayor and council this evening as they consider the business of the city and consider how to serve all of our residents. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next items on our agenda are our consent agenda items. These are items that are considered to be fairly routine, and they've been reviewed by council as part of our packet, and they will be enacted in one motion unless a member of the audience or a member of council asks to have an item removed from the consent agenda, and then it will be placed in its regular order on the regular agenda. Before I ask that, Kathy, would you please review the consent agenda items for us?
4B, approval of minutes, March 1st, 2023 regular meeting and March 8th, 2023 study session. 4C, oaths of office. 4D, city clerk, claim filed against the city. 4E, city clerk, charitable gaming license, adopt resolution. 4F, city clerk, Tulip Time Festival approval of the 2023 contract. 4G, city clerk, 2023 Tulip Time fireworks request. 4H, transportation services, adopt resolution to support application for fiscal year 2026 bridge funds for the 24th Street Bridge. 4I, transportation, approve proposed budget for the 40th Street Improvement Project. 4J, transportation, approve extension of the 2022 crack ceiling contract to work planned for 2023. 4K, transportation services, approve agreement with Michigan's Public Safety Communication System and memorandum of understanding with Telrad for the new Parks and Transportation Department radios. 4L, transportation services, adopt resolution authorizing city staff to complete a study for proposed 6th Street snow melt improvements. 4M, transportation services, 2023-2024 road salt purchase. 4N, purchasing, Parks and Recreation, award electrical services bid.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Is there any member of the audience that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed in its regular order on the regular agenda? Seeing none. Any member of council that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none there either. What is the pleasure of council in regard to the consent agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Moved by Vreeman. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd.
Yes.
Vreeman.
Yes.
Peters. Corbin. Coronado.
Yes.
Arnshorst.
Yes.
Hoekstra.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Michigan, in all of our public meetings, whether it's city council meetings or our board, committee, and commission meetings, we give the public the opportunity to be able to address their elected leaders and those that are making decisions on their behalf. We're going to provide that time for you here and now. We do have some rules that we follow in that regard. One is you are limited to 5 minutes. Each person may speak one time. There are 3 lights on the dais in front of me. There's a yellow light, a red light, and a green light. The green light means you're doing well on time. The yellow light means you have 1 minute left. And the red light means that your time has expired, and we are strict about that. So we ask that you abide by that rule. This is one-way communication. This is an opportunity for you to speak to us. We don't answer questions during this time or engage in discussion, but it gives you the opportunity to speak on any subject that you would choose to speak on. In that, having said that, when you approach the mic, please state your name and the municipality, the community that you live in. With that, is there anyone who would like to address council at this time? If so, please come forward. And would you please state your name and
will.
municipality?
Yes, sir. I am Justin Roebuck. I live in a city called Zeeland. Some of you may be familiar with it, but I love Holland. So we spend a lot of time here as a family. And I'm your county clerk and register of deeds for Ottawa County. Thank you for the opportunity just to address you. It's been a while since I've been in front of Holland City Council. This is sort of annual report season for us. So we've just completed our 2022 annual report. That information is all on our website at miottawa.org/clerk. And you can find about a 55-page report there. I'm going to give you a very brief summary of that. It was a busy year in 2022 for us. We did about 130,000 documents on the circuit court side of things, about 40,000 documents recorded in the Register of Deeds office, which is a little bit lower than what we've typically seen, and I think I attribute that mostly to the changing interest rates and the housing market shifting a little bit, but still very strong in that department as well. And we continue moving forward with our mission, which is simply as an office to help our customers and encourage their trust in government. That's firmly what we believe. We do that through transparency in my office, through building relationships with our customers, and that's really important for us. There's really 2 critical ways that we interact on a regular basis with you all at the city, and that is one on the Register of Deeds side through our Laredo system, which is basically the system that connects with your BS&A with our property records and equalization. So giving that up-to-date property information in real time as to what properties have changed hands so that you have updated records on your system. And then the other significant way that we interact with you, of course, is elections. Elections has been again, we had a very busy gubernatorial election cycle in 2022, and we're really gearing up for a very busy cycle already for the 2024 cycle. It's amazing to think, but we are already in the planning stages working through that. We obviously have a May election that's coming up in about 7 weeks here as well. But really some substantial change happened in November of 2022 when voters passed Proposal 2, which significantly changes some election-related things. One of those items is 9 mandatory days of early voting. And that's going to be something that we're working through certainly with our local clerks, the city and township clerks. And I will say, working with Kathy and her team is an honor. They are amazing. We're very, very grateful. Obviously, you're our 2nd largest jurisdiction here in Ottawa County, and we're very fortunate to have a team like Kathy's here. But we want to be supportive in whatever way we can, particularly with some of the new challenges and the implementation phases of Proposal 2. And I think one of the big pieces of that is going to be funding. We've been advocating in Lansing for funding of some of the mandatory items in that, and a lot of that does fall on the local units of government. The counties have sort of escaped that piece of mandatory requirements. Early voting is really a responsibility of the local units. But again, we want to be as engaged as we possibly can be in collaborating and making sure that we're supporting our clerks. And we want to be partners with you as we always have been on the election front. So just a little update from our end. And again, thank you for all that you do. We really appreciate this board and this council, the way that you operate the city and making it such a great community to live in and play in and raise a family. So we appreciate you guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Ann Henriksen, Zeeland. We are looking forward to Faith Month in April and preparing for it. All of the churches in the area have been notified and invited to put on any event that they would like to. You will see posters around like this with a QR code, a Q4 code, if I'm right. And that will have all the events on. Many people have contributed their time and efforts in making this a very important month. And this will be given left around in churches and et cetera, so that people will know what they can attend. Some of the highlights are hoping that children will be expressing their faith out with chalk on the walks, and called the city to see if that's appropriate, and we've got to go for that. So, and people are donating chalk for children families that can't afford it. Also, at St. Francis, there will be a Christians uniting in songs and prayer. We will have a special needs night that Central Wesleyan offers for families that have children that have special needs. Good Friday demonstration from St. Francis, a resurrection celebration. We've tried to put everything not in churches but out on the streets. So this one will be at West Ottawa Performing Arts. We are inviting people to come in for City Council, and unfortunately we don't have it announced yet, but it will be announced, I think, in the middle of the month when you get back. The bookstore is collaborating with Out of the Box for a game night. Show Me the Father will be a film that is offered at 633 Hispanic, trying to incorporate the Hispanic communities also in this Faith Month. Hope College students on Sunday night, they offer a worship, and so does the Mass, Catholic Mass at Hope College. So that's listed here, and inviting the public to come into that. Mistaken Identity is a really good event, and hopefully everybody will come. Inviting all of you, by the way. This is the car crash or an accident that happened with two young ladies, and one died, and the other one was in critical condition. It was a mistaken identity, so that's something you don't want to miss. And Things We Could Not Say, this is a World War II story of a woman that worked in the resistance and lived in Grand Rapids. And again, that's a very passionate story that you don't want to miss. So we're thankful that we have that month for us to express our faith. It's, as the mayor said, we are a faith community, many of us, so we appreciate all the efforts that others are putting into this. So hope you can all come. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Good evening, and I know you're one of our HIAC students. I just want to remind you, we ask a little something extra of our HIAC students, that not only your name and municipality, but we'd love to know the school that you go to, what you're doing with HIAC, and if you have any plans for the future. And as I told you before the meeting, if you don't have any, that's fine, because I didn't have any when I was your age either.
My name's Elisa Mason, and I am a part of the HIAC's Environmental Committee. I am a senior at Holland High, and I'm hoping to major in biology with a pre-vet track in the future.
Wonderful.
I wanted to bring to light the ice rink that is being built and how it's such a great opportunity for the youth and all ages to just have activities to do in the winter, which a lot of people kind of struggle to find things to do in the winter. This year I got into ice skating, and it wasn't very convenient driving 30 minutes to South Haven or Grand Rapids rink. So it is nice that it's being built.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Good evening, and you've been here before, so you know the drill.
Yes, I have. So my name is Hannah Huggett. I'm also a Hayek student, also from the Environmental Committee. I live in Fenville, but I go to school here in Holland at Black River. And in terms of plans for the future, I'm hoping to get a bachelor's degree in environmental science and a master's degree in public policy. So I'm here today to offer public comment regarding climate resiliency planning in Ottawa County that I've been involved in, which will hopefully be of interest to Council. In summer of 2021, another Holland-based activist, Abby Shepard, and I were invited by Paul Sachs, who's the director of the Ottawa County Department of Strategic Impact, to serve on an ad hoc committee tasked with developing a climate resilience report for the county. This report would include a climatological overview of environmental issues in the county, a summary of the county's history of sustainability efforts, critiques of their past initiatives, and a set of strategic recommendations for future climate resiliency planning. Our committee completed the report in December of last year. However, we haven't yet had an opportunity to present it to the Ottawa County Commissioners. After review by the Commissioners, we hope to make it publicly available. So you might be wondering, why is this relevant for Holland? The ultimate purpose of the report we've produced is that it will serve as a guiding document for the development of a regional, county-wide land use planning vision. I believe that as a local leader in sustainability and innovation, Holland is a role model to other cities within Ottawa County and can further its legacy of historic leadership by participating in these regional land use planning efforts. Ottawa County is the fastest growing county in Michigan and currently encompasses 17 townships, 6 cities, and 1 village, each with their own strategic development plans. The ecological issues facing Ottawa County are massive and intersectional, requiring collaboration between all districts toward the common goal of climate resilience. The Ottawa County Climate Resilience Report does not at all suggest that any city be deprived of the autonomy to implement its own strategic development process. On the contrary, we aim to partner with each district in Ottawa County. We envision a regional land use planning vision that will unify Ottawa County's districts under the common goal of climate resiliency planning while not dictating any uniform planning goals. My aim in offering public comment today is simply to make you aware that the Ottawa County Climate Resilience Report exists and that our committee plans to share it with you in the near future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Next item on our agenda, item 7A, Neighborhood Enterprise Zone for 780 Columbia Avenue. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So we have 2 of these NEZ, which stands for a Neighborhood Enterprise Zone items in front of you. The one at this point of the agenda is for 780 Columbia Avenue. And just a reminder on process, you'll recall that this was before you. I think the report said a couple months ago, I can pull up the exact date, it's probably not important, but it started the process of asking you to approve the intent to create a zone. What happens then is we send notification to the other taxing entities, giving them an opportunity to weigh in and ask any questions. And then we go ahead and set a public hearing date. And tonight is that public hearing date. And at this point in the process, because we always seem to have multiple steps in our processes, we're going to have several of those tonight, right? This would be the step of having a public hearing about creating this neighborhood enterprise zone, and that we hold that hearing. Then ultimately you would later adopt the zone itself, and then eventually we know we have an applicant in the audience who's here. Thank you, Mr. Montez. And he is here and is able to answer any questions that you might have about his particular project. But you're going to have an opportunity in the future, because if this zone is adopted, then he would actually apply for a specific NEZ certificate that would have the detail outlining his particular project, and then we would go through that process too. I can only imagine, for those listening and maybe even those of us that go through these processes, that we wonder why it takes so many steps and why we do so many steps like this. And I think there is rationale in that process where the zone, and I'm going to compare it to our tax abatements, our PA 198s. A lot of times you don't see that first step in the process because when you see an abatement request itself for a certificate, it's already in a zone that you or a prior council has approved that will consider a certificate exactly in that zone. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an outline. Again, the item for you is to actually hold the public hearing regarding the establishment of this district. And if you have questions about the eventual certificate, Mr. Montez is here, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
That was a great explanation. I still have a process question. So do we need, because I'm looking at the suggested motion, and that the suggested motion is to make a motion to hold the public hearing. So
Just hold the,
we can just hold the hearing, but then we're not going to be doing any action. We're going to hold the public hearing, we're going to close the public hearing, and we're going to move on, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure we did that right.
I just double checked too, but yes.
Okay.
So there'd be another action that we'll take that you would ultimately take action to create the zone.
All right, that is really very helpful and very clear. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to open the public hearing on the proposed neighborhood enterprise zone at 780 Columbia Avenue. Is there any member of the public who would like to address council in regard to this particular item? Same rules apply as in public comment. We've got a 5-minute limit. Anyone who would like to address council? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. At this point, does council have any questions for the applicant, since the applicant is here this evening? Oh, I think we're all good there, too. Wonderful. Great. Next item on the agenda, item 9, written petitions and communications. In addition to providing in-person public comment at all of our meetings, we also have an email address where we allow you to send an email to us, and that is publiccomment@cityofholland.com. Again, public comment at cityofholland.com. We collect those in between our regular meetings, and then if we have any, we accept them into the record. We don't read them out loud at the meeting, but accept them as part of the public record. And we do not have any of those this evening. Next item on the agenda is item 12E 4.1, an intent to create a neighborhood enterprise zone for 317 Central Avenue. Mr. Van Beek.
So now we're going to almost take a step back in time and pretend that for the last one you just took action on, this would be the first step in the entire process. So this would be, we've received an application, which is in your packet, which outlines that they have a project, someone has a project that they would like to be considered eventually for an NEZ, a Neighborhood Enterprise Zone certificate. But because it resides in a location right now where there isn't an actual zone, the first step is this, where they would ask you to have intent to create the zone. We've provided you with information, and Matt probably will scroll through where I think we have the assigned parcels required by the state. That would be the parcels that would be included in this zone. And what we're looking for here quite often is it has to be over a certain number of parcels. I think it's 10, maybe 8. I don't know if it matters, 8 or 10 by state legislation. And then what happens is we're looking to have the ability for TIF and those types of things to support the project that would be going in. So this, again, is that first step in the process. Should you take action to approve this, we would notify the other taxing entities, give them time to respond, ask any questions, file any information. And then over a period of time, you'll see the step that you took just recently here, where we'd set a public hearing date and then hold the public hearing date, and then ultimately assuming that you'd approve those all the way through the steps in the process, ultimately then a zone would be created, and then the certificate would be applied for.
All right. Thank you. What is the pleasure of council in regard to this item, the intent to create a neighborhood enterprise zone at 317 Central Avenue? Oh, yeah, certainly. Do you have questions, Mr. Corbin?
Yeah, questions before of staff.
Sure.
So if you could enlighten me, or at least the public, this is not about rezoning any property. This is about creating a zone over top of already existing zoning, correct? Can you just explain that so the public understands that? I got a few phone calls regarding that, so.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, this doesn't preclude or replace or change anything either in council's level zoning or even planning commission review and approval of projects. That is a parallel process that's not overridden by this process in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, the project that's really triggering this is something that's already been talked about and I think fully approved at the planning commission level. So this would just be a tool that they would use, that they're asking to use, that would help the financing and actually see that project move forward.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, unless things have changed, my recollection from many years ago was that according to state law, there's a certain percentage of total properties in the city that are allowed to be entered into an NEZ. Given this consideration, the one we've just talked about, and the existing NEZs, I'm assuming that we're not approaching that limit.
We're not even close yet.
Oh, that's good.
Good question, though.
And could maybe just refresh our memory of what other NEZs we have, if you can remember?
Lynn, can you maybe come up so you can help refresh my memory? So currently we are closing or about to close one on Baker Lofts.
Right, and we have some related to Washington School, I
And then we
believe,
have Washington School that are still active.
and then the GDK.
And then 8th Street, some of the more recent developments, those are still active also.
Yes, that's what we currently have.
The Bakers are very close to being closed out, right?
Yeah, Baker's closed up.
It is closed, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council for staff?
Thanks, Lynn.
All right, what is the pleasure of council in regard to this item?
Move that council adopt the attached resolution of intent to create a neighborhood enterprise zone in accordance with Public Act 147 of 1992 as amended.
Moved by Aaron's Is there support?
Support.
Support by Hoekstra. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Freeman.
Yes.
Peters. Yes. Corbin. Yes. Coronado.
Yes.
Arnshorst.
Yes.
Hoekstra.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Byrd.
Yes.
Mayor Bucks.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next item, item 12E 4.2, to set a public hearing for the Fifth Amendment to the 7th Street Parking Deck Brownfield Plan. Mr. Van, we are all over the map tonight and in process, aren't we?
We are process, Fifth Amendments, and multiple processes. I think all of you were in attendance last week. We did a study session where this was really a key highlight and really an enabling feature as part of all of the work that we're very excited to proceed with in this coming year on 6th Street, where we're reconstructing that street, doing some great stuff with BPW, our partners, with all the infrastructure underground, including burying power lines in that section, but also doing a complete road reconstruction, reconstructing that road with a different design, and including snow melt completely along that entire stretch. Very important to that is this brownfield. What you're being asked for tonight, most specifically, is just setting a public hearing to consider, and that you would adopt at a later date, specifically April 12, or consider adoption. But what the brownfield amendment does is it supports a private project, which is a project by Lakeshore Advantage to do a building in partnership with EV Construction at the corner of College and 7th. But then also it allows for all the public infrastructure along 6th Street and a little bit of a stub on College and a little bit of a stub on Columbia to all be part of this amendment to the brownfield plan. And what it does is it allows, again, really increment financing to help support this very large public investment that we're making into our community. So that gives you background on the guts of what we're doing. But again, the action that's before you tonight is just to set a public hearing to hear from the public and then take final action at that April 12 date.
Great. Thank you. Questions for staff? What is the pleasure of council in regard to this item?
Move to approve said motion. Set public hearing for the Fifth Amendment to the 7th Street Parking Deck Brownfield Plan on April 12th.
It's moved by Coronado. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Airsource. Any discussion? Seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Peters? Yes. Corbin? Yes. Coronado?
Yes.
Arnsworth?
Yes.
Hoekstra?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Byrd?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Next item, 12E 6.1, gifts. Kathy, would you please review the gifts for us?
The city manager's office is pleased to report the following gifts. The Allegan County Fire Chiefs Association donated $1,500 to support the 2023 Safety Symposium Mike Gagliano event at Holland High School on April 1st, 2023. It is recommended that these donations be accepted with appreciation, credited to the appropriate account, and an expression of gratitude be forwarded to said donors.
Great. Thank you. What is the pleasure of council in regard to the gifts?
Move to approve said gifts with a token of our appreciation.
Moved by Coronado. Is there support?
Support. Oh.
Support by Airsource. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12E 6.2, sale of parcel located at M40 and 64th Street. Mr. Van Beek.
And I'm going to hand this off to Assistant City Manager Matt Van Dyken, who I'll note, we've had a lot of these over the last several years, which is a great outcome of a process that we use to take a look at city surplus property and designate certain ones that were surplus and that we've used really targeted processes to try to return those to the tax rolls. And Matt has some good news for us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Keith, and good evening, everyone. So the property that we're talking about is actually a orphaned parcel as the result of the realignment of 64th Street to align with K-Bill Drive. That was to address some safety and traffic concerns that were in that area. That resulted in about a 1.1 acre piece of property that City Council declared as surplus back in 2021. And we have had listed for sale since August, September of 2021. The parcel is weird. It's oddly shaped. That has kind of restricted some of the offers that we've had exploring that particular piece of property. But we do think it's got some possibilities, and obviously somebody else does as well. So we have an offer on the property. That offer is for $83,000. It is, as you'll see in the report, less than what we had originally hoped we might get, but the roughly 18 months that the property has been for sale, the number of people that have inquired about the property but haven't actually made an offer on it, I think that probably brings us pretty well in line that that's probably the true value of the property. We did go back to the potential purchaser. They had originally offered $75,000. We went back and negotiated. They raised that price obviously to $83,000. They would like us to get a survey and get the property resurveyed. I don't blame them, given the configuration of that piece. I would want it staked myself, and that's about a $2,600 cost to the city. So yeah, there is there is a typo in here. The property is listed in the report, my fault, as 735 East 64th Street. It is actually 730 East 64th Street. So while it's incorrect in the report, it is correct in the purchase agreement. Really, that's kind of a nutshell of the property. It's a good location. M40 is a limited access highway, so they will not be able to have a driveway onto M40. They'll have to come on and off 64th Street at the light. So that will be safe. Obviously, adding an additional driveway onto M40 would have maybe undone the situation we were trying to resolve by that relocation of 64th Street.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Questions for staff from council? I just have one. Do you have any idea what they're thinking about using it for?
I don't.
Okay. Not that it matters, but
It doesn't, right now, you know, everything around it is zoned highway commercial, it's zoned industrial, so they do have in there, in the purchase agreement, that they want some time, 180 days to rezone, get site plan approval, that kind of stuff. So it will be something, where all indications are, you're not gonna have an industrial use on that property, it's just not big enough, so it'll be something commercial.
so we'll find out when it comes to the planning commission for a request to rezone and a site plan review.
It sure looks to me like it to be a really good location for a drive-through coffee shop, but I don't have any idea what their intent is.
All right. Any other questions for council members, from council members? No? What is the pleasure of council in regard to this item?
Move we approve the recommended purchase agreement.
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support? Support by Vreeman. Any discussion? Seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Corbin? Coronado?
Yes.
Aaronshorst?
Yes.
Hoekstra?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Byrd?
Yes.
Vreeman?
Yep.
Peters? Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 13, communications from the city manager. Mr. City Manager.
Since we've had seemingly a pretty quick meeting tonight, can I take a long time? No, I only joking, because it seems like I'm about the only one that have talked. I'll make it relatively quick. Just kind of a preview of things coming. Next week we have a study session, kind of in our process of planning for the budget. What we'll do is we have some information for you that we'd like to go over, some high level kind of budget check-ins, if you would, on a couple things, so that if you kind of give, pretty radical, like, what are you thinking, like go in another direction on a couple big items, we can make some quick shifts. We think it aligns with the direction that you've given us. Excuse me. And that will also include giving you information on our long-term financial plan, because that really is, again, one of many, but one of the really critical importance documents that we review. It's a good time to go through that and talk about that, as it really gives the context for what we've been working on for a long time in beginning of April, giving you the manager recommended budget, which will then kick off the process through April of you doing reviews of that, and then a public hearing and a vote in May. That meeting next week will be the last one for a little bit, in that it's the fifth Wednesday in March. Don't have anything scheduled. And then that first meeting in April is a historic, and I think with good justification, is a week off for spring break. So I have 2 weeks after next week where you have some free time maybe. And then when we get back after that, we'll put you right back into it and through it with budget review through April is pretty heavy budget figures to go through. Other than that, a lot of staff work right now finalizing budget. We've definitely been working, also continues enjoyable giving you guys information on all the 6th Street stuff that we're talking about. Transportation has been finalizing some projects and having a lot of meetings out in the community with construction projects that are planned for this year. We always have really a series of at least 2 meetings with neighborhoods, so they know what are coming when we're doing larger construction projects. We only usually do one for like a resurfacing of a neighborhood. So we've been busy with that. And then we're certainly also in full ice rink mode of doing some fundraising for that, which is been an enjoyable opportunity to talk to the community, and we're looking forward to expand that more fully to the entire community around tulip time. And then we also, I've had a couple opportunities to speak to groups about the upcoming May 2 ballot question, about the sale of city property as required by the city charter. That talks about, I think, what everyone understands to be the land swap proposal that GDK put forward. One question just to clarify, the address for those two properties, one of them is pretty straightforward, where the Pine Avenue address, I think everyone can pretty clearly understand that that's the JDY power plant property. The other one, the address is actually Collin Park Drive, and that really goes back to parcel numbers and how things were addressed. That address, if you look for it on Collin Park, you won't find it, because really it's what all of you recognize as being the Tool Works property, which actually is on the end of 8th Street. And I think for people that aren't familiar with Tool Works, it's the property that's between Verplanks and Boatworks. So there's that kind of sliver of property that the city purchased many years ago, really reserved for an opportunity like this. So just so you're aware of that, we've had a couple questions about that, where when they see that address, they're like, what is that? So just making sure I'm trying to, get that word out as far as possible, that address ties back to actually the Tool Works property. And I think that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I have one appointment, one proclamation, and a couple of comments. First, I would ask council to approve the appointment of Robert O'Malley to the International Relations Commission for a partial term, said partial term to expire June 30, 2023. Mr. O'Malley will replace Commissioner Jacqueline Humbarger, whose term ended June 30, 2022. And so what is the pleasure of council in regard to that recommendation?
To approve?
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support? Support by Coronado. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then I have a proclamation this evening in regard to Women's History Month. Whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our city, state, and nation in countless ways. And whereas through protest and activism, generations of women have appealed to the values at the heart of our nation and fought to give meaning to the idea that we are all created equal. And whereas women have and continue to courageously serve our city, state, and country in our government, public safety, fire, and military, and the many other noble professions. And whereas the Holland Women's Literary Club for 125 years started as a small group of women dedicated to expanding their knowledge of literature, music, and current events. And whereas the League of Women Voters, established in Michigan in 1919 and over 50 years ago established roots in Holland, Women Who Care, the Holland Junior Welfare League, and whereas newer organizations like Lakeshore Latinas and Women of Color Give, who through their missions provide opportunity and access to women in our community. And whereas women's earning as a percentage of men's earnings is just 72.6%, women throughout the world work for pay equity. And whereas as a city employer, we celebrate the 82 women that faithfully serve the residents of Holland, as well as those women who serve on our city council. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and members of the Holland City Council proclaim the month of March as Women's History Month and invite the community to celebrate the women in our families, in our professional contacts, and women who came before us to build a better future for our community. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland, this 15th day of March 2023, Mayor Nathan Box. And I have just a couple of announcements. One, great St. Patrick's Day parade that we had in downtown Holland on Saturday. It was great to see folks out. A lot of folks came in. It was a little bit brisk, but people were on the sunny side of the street, waving as the parade went by, and great activities afterward. And for those who don't know, there is a road race this Saturday morning at 8:30 in the morning right at down in Centennial Park, the Leprechaun Chase. So you can go 5K and chase leprechauns around the downtown Holland area. And then One other, and this is something I just found out this afternoon, and as many of you know, the Weather Channel was here in late December broadcasting from Holland, Michigan during the blizzard that was just before and over the Christmas holiday. While they were here, they became enamored with our snowmelt system and put together a short documentary on snowmelt and posted it today. And so it's available on YouTube. I'm sure that the city's going to have it up on their website. I reposted it on social media today, but it puts the city of Holland and our snowmelt system, one, in great historic perspective, and also makes us look really, really good. And so I encourage you to get out there and find that out on YouTube. And I think that it's playing also on the Weather Channel. So if you watch the Weather Channel a lot, you'll be able to see that as well. And that's all I have this evening. Are there any appointments, motions, communications from council members this evening? Mr. Byrd.
I have a small announcement. Mr. Roebuck spoke about this already, and I wanted to bring light to our city clerk. We talk about her during, we talk about her during election time, and she has been more than on the Super Bowl. They had a commercial that said, "Don't use rock star," but I'm going to use rock star today. That she has been a rock star, and I just want to say, and I'm going to speak on behalf of council. On behalf of council, we appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Corbin.
Yeah, I'm not going to get favor from any of my colleagues on this, but I'm going to bring it up. Several study sessions we've had, and I think a couple study sessions, a few back, we had a couple council members bring issues to our attention that they would like to, talk about, further discuss, and I was just hoping or wondering, I guess I was wondering from them, if there's any urgent matters still on the table yet we need to discuss and take advantage of a few weeks we have off. Instead of having a few weeks off, do we have anything that we need to be discussing? And I want to make sure we have the opportunity to do that.
It appears we value the time off.
Yep. All right. Any other appointments, motions, communications from council members? Mr. Hoekstra.
Yes. It was 2003 when I was first elected to this board after a couple of preliminary attempts. People finally got sick of me asking, and they said okay. In that 20 years, I've served with scores of council members. I tried to count them up, but I lost track after a while. I served with, I think, 5 city managers, if you include Greg Robinson and the masterful Matt Messer. And I've had the privilege to serve with many staff. And every time these election cycles come around, I ask myself whether or not I had the energy or the sense of purpose or the desire to ask if the residents of the 6th Ward for another opportunity. And I've done that again this time around as the election is coming up close. And having gone through that exercise, I've come to the conclusion that the time is right for me to step aside and let someone else provide leadership and service to the 6th Ward. So that said, I'm not going to be seeking re-election in November. I am very grateful to the citizens of the 6th Ward for allowing me to serve these 20 years. And I'm also confident that they will be served in the future with thoughtful and attentive and visionary people in the future. So I just wanted to make that public. And that's the aim of that tune. I thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Dave. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and it's going to be a pleasure to continue to serve with you at least until November. So thank you for that. Any other motions, communications, appointments from council members? Mr. Peters.
I hate it when I follow Mr. Hoekstra because he's always so eloquent, but the stats he rattled off about how many city managers we've had, I think applies to me as well. I've chosen not to seek re-election in the 2nd Ward as well in November. It's been an honor to serve the residents of the 2nd Ward. I've lived in the 2nd Ward my whole life. I think we've done a lot of good work, but I think it's time to step aside and let others have a chance at playing a great role leading the city. So, thank you.
And at the risk of sounding repetitive, Jay, it has also been a pleasure to serve with you, and again, will be into November. So thank you. Any other motions, appointments, communications, announcements from council members? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Freeman, supported very quickly by Peters. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
I've supported before the motion.
I know you did.